We should be okay then, Anna.
Okay, thank you. Welcome to the Climate Change Steering Group. My name is Anna Evatt and I'm the Head of Corporate and Strategic Services. This afternoon, unfortunately, Councillor Field, the Chair, can't join us due to internet issues. So I'm just going to ask who is happy to chair the meeting?
Anna, I'm happy to chair the meeting.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Councillor Burton. I'll hand over to you now.
Right, thank you, everybody. So let's moving on to apologies for absence. Do we have any?
Yes, so we have apologies for absence from Councillors Mrs Cook, Colleen and Osborne, and obviously Councillor Field now.
Thank you. Can you confirm whether we're quorate or not, please?
No, we're not actually quorate, so this is going to be an information meeting only.
Thank you. I'm sure we can do some useful things just the same, but we can't make any actual decisions. Moving on with the agenda. So are there any disclosure of interests and dispensations? No? Councillor Gray? No. Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to the next item. So we have the minutes of the last meeting, which was on the 25th of July. Do we have any updates or actions, matters arising from that meeting?
Chair, can I just say that the last meeting was the 26th of September, not July.
Sorry about that. Right, thank you. So I was looking at the wrong minutes. Okay. I have the minutes that I have in front of me, the agenda that I have in front of me was taken from the website. So the meeting, the date of that is the 26th of September. So I'm actually looking at the wrong agenda here now, but I did actually take it from the website.
I've got the right agenda, Sue.
Right. Okay. So would it be appropriate now to move over to move the chair to Councillor Gray? Could we do that?
Yes, you can do that, councillors, if you want to do that. Yes.
Thank you, Polly. All right, sorry about that. I took them from the website, so I don't know why that's happened. Anyway, thank you.
It's easily done. Okay, so we've done apologies for absence, we've done disclosure of interest and dispensations. So minutes of the last meeting. Could I comment on this? Because for some reason, can you hear me? Mm-hmm. I'm getting echoes. Julie, you seem to have got me down as in part, and I was here all the time.
I think you just turned up. I think you turned up slightly late, didn't you, at one point?
No, I didn't. Okay. I did have to go to a meeting down in the park, Edgerton Park, for the Bets in Bloom, but I ran back and I was here before too,
okay,
Julie.
Don't worry, I'll get that altered then. I'll change that.
Yeah. Although, did I have trouble logging in? Anyway, Julie, I know I was here. I know I didn't miss any. Does everyone else agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on the? Do you want to go through the actions, Julie?
Yes, we can do. I don't know if you want to do that, Elise.
Well, action 1 from these minutes was to source information on Rother Voluntary Action's Sustainable Reward Scheme that somebody had referenced during the meeting. I did have a look on their website to see if I could see any reference to that, but I couldn't see reference to any award schemes. I haven't had the chance to actually speak to anybody at Rother Voluntary Action to research that further, but I can continue to look into that for next time.
Good. Can you just say, I think my internet is very dodgy. I think my internet is very dodgy. I just nearly lost you all for a moment. So we seem to be all fated today, don't we? Okay, is that the only one?
There are a couple more. Is Judy still there?
Okay, Lise.
Sure.
Yeah.
So action 1 is still outstanding for a moment. Action 2 was to raise or promote the profile of the climate champions at the RALC, the Rotherham Association of Local Councils annual parish conference. I don't know what the date of that was without going back through the...
I know the date of that. It's in November.
Yeah, it's not something
November the 11th.
I've not had an invitation to attend, so I don't know if that's something that I can participate in. I don't know if that's something that the chair usually attends as an elected member. So again, that's sort of outstanding at the moment. I'll have to discuss with Councillor Field about how we might go about executing that particular action. And the third action, which I think is the final one from last time, was about once we've got the staff electric vehicle charging points in the town hall car park, to report back to this group on what the policy is for booking those, and to ensure that includes members as well, so they can use that. Those haven't been installed yet, so again, that's still outstanding until we've got those installed. And I believe that's all of the action. Oh no, sorry, one more action 4 was about the street trees that you mentioned last time, Councillor Gray, about liaising with East Sussex County Council about what their street tree maintenance programme is. So apologies, I overlooked that one. So I'll need to. I've got the name of the contact, but I haven't made contact with him to ask for that. So again, that one's still outstanding. I'll have to look into that one for next time for you.
Oh, thanks, Elise. Shall we go into the any other business part of that? Because Julie, I've just got a very small alteration. At the beginning, where you, in the first point, you say, no, sorry, is it the second one? Well, I'm talking, no, sorry, it's the second point, Julie. Bexhill Old Town, you've put in brackets Bell Hill. It's not actually Bell Hill, it's High Street. Can we just change that, Julie? Sorry about that, but it's the Old Town High Street, which is the very difficult one.
Yes, I'll do that, Chair. I'll get that changed.
Thanks. Thank you, Julie. And I have been in touch with the County Council a bit. Just between us, I don't get very far. Could I just go back to that first point about the oak tree, just to give you some feedback on that? I finally managed to speak with Brian Griffith earlier this week, and he was about to order some trees from English Woodland. So I asked him whether he could order a good-sized oak tree, because we've got lots of little saplings, but I don't want to plant a 3-inch high sapling. So he agreed that he would order a really good size oak tree as soon as and he's going to get the stakes as well. As soon as he's got it, he's going to let me know, and then we'll arrange a date to go and plant it. He's agreed for the place on the down, because unfortunately we can't get it closer to the town hall. I'm getting horrible feedback. Can you all hear me? I might have to switch my camera off. It's quite dodgy. So we've agreed this place on the down. I think I explained it to you. Brian calls it the triangle. I know some of you don't know Bexhill that well, but I think as you turn left going towards Little Common from the top of London Road, where the traffic lights are, and then you come to that pedestrian crossing almost immediately. It's just across that pedestrian crossing going towards the school, and then there's a space on the left-hand side. There's trees at either end, but there's a nice big space in the middle, and Brian has said that we can plant the tree there. So I thought Lorna's very keen, so I thought I'd try and find a date with Lorna, because I thought it'd just be nice if Lorna could, just be there and, put the shovel in or something first, and then we'll just plant the tree. And Jo said she'd try and get a little plaque to put on it. and we're trying to protect the tree as much as we can. So that's all good news, isn't it? The other thing, so while we're talking about trees, but maybe this comes a bit later, is the orchards. But shall we talk about this later, Elise? The orchard that we were talking about earlier. So my line is so bad. Can you hear me?
It's not on the agenda, but we can certainly talk about it in either the climate action plan progress report or an AOB.
We'll do it in AONB, maybe.
Yeah, can I clarify? Well, it's an AOB from the minutes from last time, which is point 4.1, objective 4.1. No, sorry, 4.2. The third item is designate a proportion of the Rother District Council estate to wilding and nature recovery. And I wanted to highlight the link between this goal or objective and the link between asset disposal policy, in that if there are pieces of land that that could be rewild, they either can be done by Rother District Council or possibly passed to a parish. But there is going to be an issue if it's the value. So I can only quote an example of Battletown Council and the land that is within our, which is Rotherland, which could be rewild. And the value of that is difficult to calculate. So I suppose I wanted to highlight that link so that we can continue with our objective of actually moving forward with that policy and not losing the moment, really.
Okay, do you want to comment on that, Elise?
Yeah, thank you. I am in touch with the estates manager about the. I was asked to comment on the assets disposal policy. We do meet regularly to discuss the objectives and the actions in the climate action plan that relate to estates, and we certainly are having a dialogue about. Not only about buildings and making them more energy efficient and the actions in the action plan around that for our operational buildings, but also thinking about our green spaces as well. So I know they have been incredibly short-staffed in the estates team, which is why we've not had too much progress on a lot of those actions. But now they have come up with the asset disposal policy. There's a strategic asset management plan that's in place, and they have begun to recruit more staff as well. So I do keep giving them a nudge to make sure that climate and sustainability aspects of the strategy are incorporated into everything they're doing, and I've got some really good dialogue there. So
that's
just to reassure you that I'm trying to prompt that from my end as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. Is there anything more on those minutes? No. Have you got them now, Sue?
Yeah, no, I did have them before. I just read the wrong date, but it was fine. Yes, I do have them now. I think we're fine on that. Thank you.
Shall we go to agenda item 4? I'm slightly worried we've lost Julie again. Are you there, Julie?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Oh, we keep getting an empty screen. Maybe there's several screens, Julie. So, Elise, this is you, I believe.
Yes. So I've got two reports back to back to deliver to the meeting today. The first one is about Rother District Council's organisational emissions. That's our internal sort of carbon footprint, and then that will be followed by the report on the district-wide carbon footprint as well, the most up-to-date data we have for that. So if we start with the organisational emissions report, this is the report for the period of April 2023 up until March 2024. There's quite a lot of different places to gather the data, which is sometimes only available a couple of months in arrears, and then to do a lot of analysis, which is why it's taken us up until now to be able to report on this data. But if you look at the report at section 3, it lists all of the different activities that contribute to this calculation about our organisational carbon footprint. You'll see that is split into scopes. So we have the activities that fall into scope 1 and scope 2 are the activities that are considered to be directly under the council's influence. And then we have the scope 3 activities, which are the still attributed to our organisation because they link to our activities, but they're not under our direct control. So we have a target, or a KPI, I should say, that is reported to Overview and Scrutiny Committee every year, which is to reduce our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 50% each year from our baseline reporting year of 2019-20. We don't actually have an official KPI regarding those Scope 3 emissions because they are much more difficult for us to manage. But in the footprint report, I have presented the data in a similar way, looking at sort of what a 50% reduction would be, just in the interest of comparing those two. So hopefully that was clear in the report. So some of the key findings that we found from the report this year, looking at our operational emissions, is that those scope 1 and 2 emissions that are under our own, under the council's direct influence, have actually reduced by about 92% since the baseline year. So that is very, very close, within 2.2% of that KPI target of reducing 50% year on year. So a very good news story there. That is largely due to the fact that the national grid has just decarbonised by quite a bit since we started reporting. So our electricity emissions are naturally going down. We've also got a lot of staff that now work from home rather than coming into the office, so we've got fewer emissions arising from our operational buildings. But the biggest factor is probably back in November 2021, I think it was, when we took on a 100% green renewable energy tariff with our electricity provider. And because we have that 100% renewable tariff, we are able to make some deductions against our emissions that we have there, and that's really the one of the main drivers as to how we've managed to achieve such a high percentage reduction over that time. Like I mentioned earlier, the scope 3 emissions are far more difficult to manage, and actually, you know, we need to engage with a really complex set of external stakeholders to try and drive some of those emissions down. And it's the scope 3 emissions that really make up the bulk of our carbon footprint. Our scope 1s and 2s actually only makes up, I think, about 8% of our total carbon footprint. So we've got 92% of our emissions are coming from that scope 3 area. And actually 55% of all of our gross emissions just come from our waste fleet when they're collecting all of the waste from around the district. So I've just made the point in the report there that decarbonising our waste fleet would be the single most impactful action the council could take to reduce our overall carbon footprint. And at that switch to a HVO fuel, which has about a 90% less emissions attributed to it, is being negotiated when we renew that contract, that waste contract, which will be in 2026. So we won't be seeing any changes before then, but that's something that will be considered when we do renew that contract. So yes, that's sort of the highlights. Obviously, the full emissions report is attached to that report. And before I move on to the district-wide report, I'm happy to take any comments or questions people might have.
Thank you, Lise. Can I just say I'm still getting dreadful feedback. Do you think we could all mute unless actually speaking? Sue, could you try and mute? Yeah, that's a lot better already. Sorry, there's just been this background crackle, and every now and then it just goes. But thank you for that, Elise. That's really good. Any questions, Sue? I mean, could I just say that it seems to me that it's a shame we can't do more about the transport. You know, I know we're doing the electric vehicles, but it's a shame we can't, you know, encourage more greener transport. You know, I've still got the feedback. It's horrible, isn't it? Can anyone else hear it? Maybe it's me. Maybe it's my end.
No, I can hear it. I wonder if it's the council chamber feedback. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh well, as long as we can struggle on. Yes, things like encouraging cycling to work, or electric bicycles, or sharing cars, or because really we don't really want people to be encouraged to use cars, even if they're electric cars, do we? But that's just my view.
No, well, it's very valid. In fact, what I was going to say, which maybe could be a future agenda item, but to really do a focus on the scope 3 emissions, to have really pooling ideas, looking at what we can do as a council to actually make a difference to the scope 3 emissions. We did briefly mention about events last time, and we could, and as I think I got in touch with Elise, that the policies that Battle have done are on their website. I also discovered that Wealden have done a policy about events, encouraging some more sustainable events, even if they're not their events. So I suppose my suggestion would be that we have a focus on the scope 3s to put as many ideas together as we can as a future agenda item. It's only my thought.
Any views, Elise?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is an area that we do need to reduce. The scope 3 is a really complex area, and of course there are a lot of activities that will be attributed to the council where we can't actually measure or monitor what the carbon footprint of that is at the moment, because we just don't have the data available. So as I say in the report, it does list which activities fall into that scope 3. A lot of it is from our non-operational assets, so the buildings that we lease commercially, shops, office spaces, industrial units, and their use of gas and electricity. So again, that's another reason why I've been having some conversations with our sort of estates management teams, because there are certainly things that we might want to look at through our strategic asset management plans about how we reduce the carbon footprint of the buildings that are in a wider portfolio.
Yeah. Good. Can I just speak to Julie for a minute? Julie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Councillor, yes.
Julie, we are getting quite a lot of crackle feedback, and I think it might be coming from the council chamber. Is there any chance we could mute?
No, it's not coming from the chamber, and I am muted. Everything's set up correctly.
Oh, because it keeps flashing on your square, so I don't know. Anyway, we'll is everyone else okay with it? What do you think? We're okay? Everyone else is all right?
Yeah, it's a bit scratchy, but I think we can muddle through. Yeah.
And every now and then you all freeze, and I lose half a sentence. But well, we'll keep going. Any more questions for Elise on that bit, or shall we go on to agenda item 5, which is you again, Elise?
Yeah, so this is the district-wide annual emissions report. This report is based on data that comes from DESNZ, from the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero, and that's usually released in about June every year, and it's about 18 months in arrears. So this report actually covers the time period from 2005 up until 2022, and that is the latest data that we have. So of course, that's the year we're sort of back further towards that sort of pandemic year where we sort of saw that really significant drop in emissions, and then we had that sort of bounce back, and then this is sort of the year following the bounce back, really, that the sort of time period that this data is looking at. So it does show that the the carbon footprint of Rother as a district in 2022 was about 12.4% lower than that previous year, which was what we sort of call that sort of COVID bounce back year, where emissions were quite high. So that's a positive thing, that the emissions definitely came down between 2021 and 2022. But they're only about 10.5% lower than the emissions in our sort of reporting baseline year of 2019-20, when the district council declared a climate emergency. So from that point they went up and then they've come back down again, but they're 10.5% lower than they were. The largest emitting sector for Rother District, again, was transport, which is responsible for about 40% of the emissions for our district. That's followed by the domestic sector at about 34%, so that's emissions coming from our houses, heating our houses, and other domestic emissions. And then third largest sector was industrial, which was at 17.2%. Most sectors saw either a stable or a drop in emissions between 2021 and 2022, which was all in line with the national picture. The only way that Rother really deviated from that was when we look at the emissions arising from waste management. And nationally, emissions stayed fairly stable, but down in Rother, our emissions actually increased by about 40%. And that is a similar picture that we see when we look at the other districts and boroughs across East Sussex. So for the whole district of East Sussex, that waste management emissions did rise quite steeply. It only makes up a very, very small amount of our carbon footprint, so the fact that it did rise quite a lot doesn't significantly impact the full carbon footprint, but it's just a curiosity that I wanted to highlight. I'm not sure exactly what the reasons are why in East Sussex we saw this increase. Like I said, it was a very small figure to begin with, it wasn't too much of an increase, but it was 40% on the previous year, and we didn't see that reflected nationally. So, but it's certainly something that we saw across the whole other areas in the southeast as well. It's just a point to note. When we're looking at our sort of district-wide carbon footprint, we've got the Tyndall Centre for Climate Research sets a carbon budget, which gives us a guide really of how much we should be decreasing our emissions year on year if we want to play our part as a district in aligning with the Paris Agreement, which is the UN goal to limit global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius. And it's safe to say that we are not currently on target, according to the figures that they present. According to them, we should be reducing our emissions by 13.8% year on year between 2020 and 2100. And at the moment, as I say, we had a 12.4% reduction in 2022 compared to the previous year, but the year before that we were over 20% higher in emissions than the previous year. So overall, we certainly aren't anywhere near meeting that 13.8% reduction year on year on a district-wide basis. But again, as with the Scope 3 emissions, these are emissions that are not entirely within Rother District Council's control, particularly, obviously with us not being the Transport Authority, it's difficult for us to influence those transport emissions and domestic emissions as well. So it's quite a tricky area for us to try to influence. But obviously we need to be monitoring the data and seeing where we can make a difference and do what we can.
Thank you, Elise. And thank you for all the helpful charts as well. It's really useful to, see it set out like that. I think it's that ghost in the empty chair, Can you see that? It's Halloween, there's something spooky going on. It's not you, Julie. It's the empty chair we're blaming. Sue, any questions for Elise?
Well, I think it links back to my previous comment of the Scope 3, because then the Scope 3 is actually what's happening in our communities, the businesses that I mentioned earlier, and maybe looking at what we could do so that the same thing applies with what our district is doing, because our district is not moving forward in the way that either we or the Tyndall Centre, our targets are. So I would come back to trying to take some time to look at what else we could do. That's related to transport, related to health, getting people to change their ways of getting around where they can. I'm not saying it's easy, but it is by drawing new ideas, new approaches, we might be able to make some difference. So we didn't really conclude in my previous comment about whether we could focus on scope 3 and try and do some work on that. My other comment was about this steep rise in the waste management and the almost 40%, and I note that it's the other boroughs and districts that are following a similar trend, and I would have thought that should be looked into, because we're not the only authority that hasn't been able to change its vehicles to a different fuel or electric or whatever. There are many authorities in the same boat as us who can't do that. So I would recommend that is investigated. It's so significant that we're different to everybody else, East Sussex. Those are my two thoughts, really. But yes, and make really good report. You can grasp the meeting without being a mathematician. You can grasp the essence of what you're saying to us. Well done, Elise.
Yeah, thank you, Elise. Do you want to comment on what Sue just said, Elise, or you've already said it, haven't you, that you'll look into it?
Yeah. I'll have to speak to East Sussex County Council and see if there's any light they can shed on that situation. But like I say, and looking at the waste management figures, I mean, in 2021 it was 4.1 kilotons compared to our transport emissions, which were 164.8 kilotons. So although there has been that 40% increase, it's only risen from 4.1 kilotons to 5.7 kilotons, which is still a very small overall percentage of our carbon footprint.
Thank you, Elise.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
Thank you, Elise.
Do you want to quickly look at the horizontal right at the end of Elise's report? Does anyone want to comment on those? That's really helpful, Elise. I just find it really helpful that you've put headings and you tell us, what they are and the state of progress. That's just really interesting. And it's good to see that lots of them are ongoing, aren't they? Just going to the pesticides one right at the end. Are we going to get the report next month? It says report due November.
Sorry, where are you looking now?
I'm looking right at the end of biodiversity.
The climate action. Have you moved on to the next agenda item? Sorry.
I thought it was all on the same agenda. In mine, it's all under the same. I've gone down to page 55. So I thought this was all under your same heading. It's not separated in mine.
No, it's not. Yeah, I think the climate action report where we get the coloured bars. I think that might be the next agenda item.
Sorry.
The progress report.
Sorry about that. It all seems to run into one on mine. Right. Well, do you want to go on to that one?
Yeah, more than happy to move on to that next one. So as always, I've presented the climate action plan with some notes of progress against any of the actions where we have made progress. There are additional actions. You'll see if you look at the sequential numbers down the left-hand side, there are some actions that aren't included in this report because we haven't actually begun making any progress against those actions yet. So we're only presenting the ones here where something has happened, and where something has happened since this was presented at the Climate Change Steering Group last month, I've highlighted those updates in bold. So I will just work through those really. But the first one, I think, probably refers back to Councillor Burton's previous comments about those sort of Scope 3 and the district-wide emissions. So at 1.1.9, action 1.1.9, we have currently, or rather currently has a number of grants available that businesses can access, or community groups, etc., can access across the district for net zero plans, and this one particularly relates to net zero infrastructure. And you can see in the bold update there that we've approved grants for 3 businesses, and that there is going to be, or there has been by now, on the 15th of October, a workshop for micro, small and medium tourism and hospitality businesses that took place. I think there might be another one coming up for camping businesses as
For
well.
what businesses who live camping?
Camping.
I thought you said
Yes. So there's lots of, it's the regeneration team are overseeing that Net Zero 360 programme, but there's lots of events and grant funding that is going out to the wider district through that programme. So it looks like that's progressing really well at the moment.
Can I make a comment, Elise? So I think the event in October was actually in Rye.
Yes, I think it was at the heart of the Rye Harbour Nature Reserve.
Yeah, exactly. So that one, I think that to look at any further workshops and really spreading the word. I didn't know till like the 14th or whatever about the one in Rye. It was a half day, I think, over in Rye, so quite difficult for businesses to get to. I just would encourage really good publicity, maybe to the town councils about these events. We want to take a best advantage of these opportunities, and I'm a little bit concerned about the sharing of the publicity.
I know they go out and we have a business alerts. I don't know if it's a weekly or a monthly email that goes out. Businesses can sign up, like the Residents My Alerts email that we have that goes out every Friday. There is a business alerts email that businesses can sign up to. So I know that it has been pushed out through that channel.
Okay.
To local businesses, and they've been, the first one that was held was in Ashburnham, they've done this one in Rye. They are moving them across the district to try and make them more accessible to people as well.
Okay.
But I'm not directly involved in the.
No, I appreciate that. I just have missed the boat to prompt people that businesses that are local to me, that I've links with. I've missed the boat twice really. So I don't know what sign up the business alerts has from Rother. I hope it's really wide. Maybe the business alerts could come up on the Rother alerts, so that they try to get some more people involved in that way. There's the membership to the businesses. What's it called? The marketing. It's not called marketing. That is so limited. The number of businesses who actually engage in other than just get on with their work, with their running their business, is very small. So it's a hard group to reach, really. That's really nobody's fault, but the more we can do, the more likely we are to reach them. So that was a bit garbled, but I think you get what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to... the chamber. The chamber is what I'm saying. There's so many businesses aren't a member of a chamber because it costs £30, and so they think, well, what do I get from that? And they don't even join. I'm sure, is that the apply in Bexhill, Polly, do you know? That so few businesses are actually members of the chamber.
Do you know, I have no idea. The person to ask would be Christine Bayliss. Just local businesses. I try to keep out of the Chamber of Commerce.
No, quite.
It's toxic.
my experience is that businesses are hard to reach, so they need extra push from our end to reach them. Is really my point. And you maybe could feed that back, Elise, to see that, you know, we really good publicity and the business alerts, you know. Brilliant.
Good. Okay. Any more?
Looking down, just having a quick look through transport. Obviously, we've been trying very hard to get the electric charging vehicle points in some of our public car parks. We are still just on the cusp of getting that started, and according to the funding that we have, that project needs to be completed by March 2025. So at the moment, we are still looking like we are on track to deliver that project, subject to getting that contract agreed as soon as possible. We have had, again, through those business grants that we've just been talking about, and that Net Zero 360 programme, we have awarded some grants to companies to install electric vehicle charge points for their staff and visitors. And there's 2 places where we've been able to do that. And this falls into transport, although it's more about just a general emissions reduction, but at 2.3.2 on this Climate Action Progress report, I just wanted to update that we did have another carbon literacy training internally for the District Council officers in September, and that brings us up to 79 officers now internally that have all received that training, and we've got another course scheduled in November. So we're doing, you know, we're plodding along and getting that training rolled out internally.
Well done.
Really good. Just having a look through some of the other updates that we've got on here. I'll just make a comment about the 3.2.2 in resource consumptions and waste is about funding activities. Again, this is about that district-wide picture of emissions, trying to fund activities to reduce consumption and increase repair, reuse and recycling. And we do have a rather reduce, reuse, recycle grant. Again, it may come down to Councillor Burton's previous point about that sort of publicity and how we push these out, but we haven't had any applications to that particular grant stream, I don't think, this year. So far, which seems, you know, such a shame. But again, I think it's just difficult to get out there and reach people that might be able to benefit from that. But of course, it's something that I talk about a lot to people that I come into contact with. So just a bit of a reminder there, if you come across any groups in your local areas.
I think there's a men's workshop, isn't there, here in Bexhill, or men's shed. Do you think it'd be worth someone approaching them? Actually, I think Brian Dreesen might have contacts with them. Does anyone else know? No?
We've let Run the Voluntary Action obviously know about our grant scheme, so they sort of can help to signpost to them as well. And a lot of those groups will be linked in with RVA. So
good. Anna?
I was going to say, that we can find out about the men's shed, but I was going to mention to Councillor Burton, you know, you're going to go to the Rother annual conference and you're going to talk about No Mow May. It might be a good opportunity to mention this grant scheme as well.
Yeah. I've only got 10 minutes, Anna, but I'm sure I can slip in.
Yeah.
My comment on that, it did come up in one of the council meetings. It was probably overview and scrutiny about maybe the criteria was quite unattractive because you have to raise 50% yourself. It was mentioned, I think you were there, Elise, or online at least, but is it bad timing when the grant scheme is being looked at to revisit that the 50% requirement to get the funding? It's probably bad timing. But do you mind me explaining myself? I'd say if it was, we had a I would say, can we go back? Let's look why aren't people applying? What could we do differently to make it more attractive? But then I'm querying with the grant schemes being looked at again that it isn't good timing. And somebody say, yes, Sue, it's not good timing, then that's fine. And I hear that. But
Okay.
I certainly can mention it at the conference.
Thank you, Sue. Do you want to carry on, please? Yeah.
Yeah, lastly, and the last section is, second to last, biodiversity and land use. You mentioned earlier, Councillor Gray, about the pesticides, herbicides policy. Yes, we're expecting a report at the next meeting at the end of November from our Parks and Gardens team on that one. We've also now received all of the biodiversity audits that the Climate Strategy Officer commissioned before she left, and they're all available on a webpage online, which I can share the link for if anybody wants to have a look at those. We are awaiting an overarching report from the ecologists as well. So hopefully we'll have that within the next couple of weeks with some general sort of advice and guidance about how we can be managing our green spaces for nature, those that are owned by Rotherham District Council. And I think that's pretty much it, to be honest with you. Unless anyone's got any other questions about any of the other actions that are on there.
Thank you, Elise. That's truly helpful. Can I just say I've had a message from Sue Projak, who's watching this. She's watching it on the web, but she can't get it on Teams. And she says there's some good news stories embedded in the agenda, maybe some positive press releases. What do you think? Anna's nodding. Could we do that? Yeah, hooray. Good.
Yeah, I would say definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Sue, if you're watching. That's a very good suggestion.
There are lots of good news stories.
And Elise, we're hugely grateful to you for all the work you do, especially as you're on your own now.
Exactly.
Is there any news about the Environment Officer? Are you allowed to say? No, okay. I'll keep quiet.
Yeah, it's a bit early. It's a bit early days. I've only been in post for a couple of weeks. Right. I'll try and find out some more.
Oh, thank you. Shall we go on to? Sorry, Sue.
Well, I'm looking for where biodiversity net gain is on this report. Maybe it isn't as an action. It was. I'll bring it under future agenda items.
Any other business?
Yeah.
Can I just say that Sue sent me another message saying, is there any news when Lucy's post is going to be filled? I understood they weren't going to fill her post. Do we know?
Sorry, just trying to find my mute button. I found it. No, we've got no news. I mean, there's no plans at the moment to fill the post, but Elise and I are looking at, what she does and the budget available. And as I said, I'm quite new in post, but one of the things I'm very keen to do is to embed the work that we do across all parts of Rotherham. Obviously, rather than looking at it as just the role of the climate change officer. And so to try and work with people with their service planning to try and get everybody to be mindful of the actions that they need to take. And of course, we've got the action plan and we've got the new council plan as well that we'll be developing the action plan for. So we will be looking to each of the service areas to try and incorporate the necessary actions as part of their work, and for potentially Elise to coordinate that and monitor it.
So in a way, spread it out over. And poor Elise, more work for you. I hope they're paying you Lucy's salary as well as your own. Some hope.
I fully support that, Annette, that it's about embedding it into everybody's work. That's certainly very important. And one of the things I thought about particularly was when the new recruitments in relation to planning, and that is such an important area for linking the climate and ecology agenda to in the recruitment of staff, etc. So I would fully support that. However, the bit that I'm very concerned will get lost is about continuing to develop our approaches, the way we do the work, learning from other organisations who may be ahead of us in something, and that all takes quite a lot of resource and expertise to work on that, and that's the bit that concerns me, how that will happen, because as Elise is, there's lots to do. We've got the action plan, and it's all different skills as well, so that's my concern, of not losing track of that.
Thank you, Councillor Barton.
Okay. Has anyone else got anything under? Can I just mention the community grant for the orchard? I know we discussed this last time, Elise, and I said I was sure that Bexhill Friends of the Down, well, the good news is, as you probably know, that she's applied for 2 separate grants, hasn't she? One for here on the Down, and one for what's it called, the Broad Oak Park.
That application hasn't been received just yet. But I was in touch with them yesterday, and they said that it was to come.
Yes, she emailed me quite late last night. It's due in today, I think. So I'm sure you'll get it by the end of the day. But I mean, that's good news, isn't it? To get 2 here in Bexhill, if they go through. Yeah.
And there's also there were 2 applications in Battle as well, as we've got Councillor Burton on the line. One I believe was planted a couple of weekends ago. There was a community planting event, and I've just sent you an email earlier on today as well, Councillor Burton, to say that we've got another tree community planting event happening on the 3rd of December, where we will be planting. Rotherham District Council will be planting the microwood on Coronation Gardens Rec in Battle, and on the same day, Battle Town Council will be planting their community orchard. So I've sent out, if you go onto the Rotherham District Council website and search for Battle Tree Planting Day, it will come up with a page that can tell volunteers how they can get involved in that if they want to register and come down and help us to plant those trees.
And how many I planted a pear tree with help.
Fabulous.
The wrong shoes, no gloves, but anyway, because it was after our litter pick. I do advertise. If you think we did the last one, as you said, in Battle, the first orchard, and that was obviously predominantly advertised locally. This, you've got the micro wood on the same day as the orchard. So really bringing in the teams, really advertising rather alerts and as wide as you can is going to be really important, because there's a lot to get done that day. So I'm pleased, but can't believe I planted a pear tree when I don't even like pears. Anyway,
I planted an ash tree yesterday, or rather John did, and I helped. Someone gave me a healthy ash tree. So that's on the Downs as well. So yeah, we're getting there. So would you like a group of us from Bexhill to come and help then? You don't
Absolutely.
Want to battle. Okay.
It's been predominantly Elise is managing the micro wood, and Councillor Andrew Barton is managing the orchard. He's responsible for those. But I think that would be really good, because if you think of, we had a dozen trees on last Saturday, and this time we've got 25 fruit trees. I think that would be really good, especially as I came over to help in Bexhill. But anyway, yes,
indeed,
I think that would be a really unskilled people would be, a clue.
I can tell you, John could do 25 well easily in an hour. He's very quick and skilled, and he's got the proper equipment, to plant trees. So, yeah, do you know the timing of it? I mean, we've been...
Well, look, Elisa's just given you all the instructions.
Okay, it's a Tuesday, isn't it? So, the 3rd of December.
I've been in touch with Bexhill Environmental Group today, and they're going to put it out through their newsletter as well.
Oh, great.
You will pick it up from that, I'm sure. But if you go onto the District Council website, just put in Battle Tree Planting Day, it should take you to the page. We are asking people to pre-register because the Microwood site is quite small, so we won't actually be able to manage lots and lots of volunteers at any one time. But because we've got the orchard as well, then there will always be something for someone to do. But we are just asking people to let us know what time they want to come on. And there's a form where you can fill out.
Oh, thanks, Elise.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Sue?
Yeah, just a point I was starting to mention earlier that about biodiversity net gain, in that now is in law, and I wondered at what point would be a good moment to have feedback on how that's going, and particularly about enforcement. That are developers doing what they say they're going to do, and how's that all working? So I think we should be. It's a significant part of rewilding our district. So maybe the timing's not right yet, but I think that I wanted to flag it up as an issue, an important thing that needs to be kept on our agenda. I have actually emailed Teresa. I didn't know she wasn't coming today because there has been a planning enforcement task and finish group, and I'm not sure what stage it's at, but I have done her an email today to ask her, because that is an area that needs to be enforced. Hopefully not, but maybe.
Okay, Sue. I'm sure that's noted.
My instinct would be it might be a little early, because even those developers that have had BNG requirements, it might still be too early for them to have, I don't know what the time frame is and when they have to execute them. But it would be something that we can ask planning whether or not it's the right time to begin feeding them back on that, and try to invite them to a future meeting, and so they can report on that.
Yeah, brilliant. I agree with that.
Have we got anything else to discuss? Any other business? No? So shall we go on to the date of the next meeting, which I think is already in our diaries? It's 28th of November at 2:00. Everyone okay with that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Just before you go, thanks to any members of the public who attended today.
I was about to say that myself.
Go on then, Polly.
Well, I was going to thank, first of all of you, Elise and Anna and Sue, for coming, because Sue, if you hadn't come, I think it would have been abandoned. And thank you for everyone watching on the web, and Sue Project for your helpful comments, if you're still there. Right, well, we're closing the meeting at 15:03. Are you there, Julie?
Yes, I'll just switch off the recording now.
Thank you, Julie.